Hey there, my name is Cole Adams, and you are watching the best college basketball podcast out there that covers the entire sport of college basketball, brackets, bubbles, and bid stealers. Now, here are your hosts, Sam Fetterman and Jonathan Lidskin.
Season 6, Episode 8 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. I am Sam Fetterman. That is Jonathan Lidskin. Jonathan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sam. Very excited to have Joe Jackson here with us to start our tip-off talk series.
Jonathan, would you like to explain what tip-off talk is?
Yeah, so last year in around August, we started doing just some team previews, kind of was doing it on the fly, wasn't super serious, didn't really have a plan of attack. This year, today's June 5th, we're starting our team previews really early this year, try to get through as many as we can. And yeah, tip-off talk's the name for it.
Tip-off talk, and our first one is the Purdue Boilermakers. We've got Joe Jackson here. Joe, how have you been, and how's the offseason treating you?
Yeah, doing good. Definitely took a little I took like a full week off from college basketball, which was something I realized I had not done in a long time. But getting back into the swing of things, uh, lots of newcomers to break down. I was thinking because for anybody that doesn't know, Feed the Post Substack, I do film breakdowns of every single newcomer to the Big Ten. And I was thinking, I was like, man, if I did this like 6 years ago, it would have been like 40, like it would have been like 40 freshmen or something like that. And I don't know, 15 transfers. And now I'm projecting like 160-ish, 170 newcomers to the Big Ten. A lot of film, but keeps me busy in the off season.
It's good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I watch a decent amount of it. It's good.
Thanks.
The first thing that we want to talk about when it comes to Purdue, and the thing that where you have to start with Purdue is the All-American Braden Smith. He's probably the best point guard in the country going into next season, if not top 2, top 3. And he silenced every doubter last year. That was the Zach Edey. He can't do it without Zach Edey, which was funny because those were the same people who said Zach Edey wasn't any good. But
True.
Moving back to the Braden Smith thing, Braden Smith was awesome last year. How did you see him grow, and how can he continue to grow for the Boilermakers in his senior season? Wow, it's crazy to say Braden Smith's a senior.
Yeah, I mean I'll talk about it later. They've been in the spotlight for a while now. Him, Lawyer, and TKR specifically. But yeah, I mean last year, right, as you said, there's definitely questions going in, what he'd be able to do. My whole thing last offseason, I remember, was just like, guys, they're gonna be good offensively. They just are. Like, watch Braden, watch TKR, like all these, like they're gonna be good offensively. I don't understand why people didn't they should have nitpicked if they really wanted to go at Purdue. They should have nitpicked the defense in the offseason of being like, hey, Zach Edey just like covered everything. But that's besides the point. Braden Smith last year, awesome. Like, I'm obviously a little bit biased. Would say he's the best point guard in the country this season. Think he'll have an argument for best player in the country, and will at least be in player of the year conversations. It is impressive that he not only increased his assists but decreased his turnover rate without Zach Edey, while running more pick and rolls, while getting more defensive attention. The 3-point percentage took a little dip from his sophomore year, still 38%, awesome. Showed more of just being that killer kind of in the mid-range. The defense improves. He's still not like all defense type guy, but there was a brief stretch where he was like, oh, you could like sort of make the case for him, and that fizzled a bit, but he just really improved, I thought, basically everywhere. He's turned some weaknesses into strengths, right? Where teams, especially his freshman and sophomore year, you high hedge him, you blitz him. A lot of issues came from it. Obviously, those are still going to result in turnovers more often than compared to like against drop coverage and things like that. But he showed the ability to kind of turn those into like, all right, let me drag out the big, hit TKR in the short roll. That's going to be a bucket every time. Teams can't I fully believe you just can't play drop coverage against Purdue at this point. Like, if you do against pick and roll, you're literally just hoping that Purdue misses open shots at that point between Braden and TKR. It just was a lot of fun to watch him continue his growth as a leader too, and just talking trash on the floor. Like, he's good, and he is going to let you know he's good.
I remember watching him in the 2023 tournament game against FDU, and then I would put that game, watch the film side by side of the Houston game this year, and it's like you're watching two completely different basketball players. It's like you're watching a scared kid, and then it's like you're watching Chris Paul. I think that 15 assist performance, I think what was it, 11 assists in the second half. Every single Purdue field goal was assisted by him in the second half. And I think that might be the single best performance by a point guard against Houston's defense in the last 4 or 5 years that I can remember. Because, like, yes, he didn't score a ton in that game, but everyone was scoring because he was creating so much offense. He was using the hedge, the blitz against Houston, which not enough teams are able to do effectively because of how good they are at recovering off of it. And look, 15 assists, 3 turnovers. They turned it over 7 times against Houston. And I was thinking coming into the game that, hey, obviously Braden Smith isn't what he was 2 years ago, but I still think this can give him maybe a little bit of trouble. It's not the best stylistic match. I think Joe, you might have been on the podcast talking about this with us, how it wasn't the best stylistic matchup for Purdue with the way Houston wanted to play, and they still lost. But man, Purdue had every opportunity in that game.
People do,
they really did.
Jonathan?
People do realize that Braden Smith has a chance to break like the all-time assist record in college basketball, right? Like, I don't think people quite realize that. He's at like 758, I think, right now. At this point, it would be like injury related if he didn't break at least the Big Ten record. So
yeah, I mean, it's a good question, to be honest. I'm gonna look it up in the background, but like one thing that I think went under discussed last year. Oh, it's Cassius Winston.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh yeah, Braden needs.
He only needs I think 150 more or something.
Yeah,
like that.
This is CBB Sports Reference. 133. It looks like he's at 758. He broke Magic's assist per game record in a single season, Big Ten assist per game record in a single season last year. Like, nobody talked about that. He broke, like, nobody has averaged more assists in a Big Ten season in history than Braden Smith did last year.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty impressive.
I kind of want to go into something. Obviously, Purdue is one of the few teams year in and year out that relies on so much returning talent. And, this year's no different. Obviously, you add Oscar Clough, you add Omer Mayer, the international kid, a couple of freshmen come in there. But I think, like, we talked about the defense last year. What does Purdue kind of have to do, and what progressions do they have to make to elevate themselves from really good team to like instant national championship contender, outside of the obvious, like, college basketball is not going to be as good as last year?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest concern is once again going to be defense. Now, I think there's 2 ways to look at it, and I think the Purdue roster is finalized. They do have 1 roster spot open, and if a European guy kind of pops, there's a chance that one gets filled in this year. Otherwise, they're just going to kind of hold it. So we're going to do the assumption the roster is complete at this point. Like, they don't have wings. They do not have wings. They're going to play a lot of 3-guard lineups. Jack Benner, he's a redshirt freshman. He's kind of a wing. I do think he's more of like the Sasha Ryan Klein type molds of more of a shooter type guy. So the perimeter defense has to be better. CJ Cox, Shakari Harris, you expect them to take, steps that way. Antoine West, I don't know how much he plays this year. He's going to be good. Incoming freshman for Purdue. The biggest question is Meyer, right? I think he has the tools to be good defensively. I don't think he has been good defensively in the film I have seen. That'll be a big one. Braden, he took some steps, kind of continuing on those. Like, all these, you just got to be a little bit better on the perimeter. But then the biggest thing is, like, hey, they have not only 1, but 2 essentially incoming rim protectors, right? Daniel Jacobson gets hurt in game number 2 after being the day 1 starter. He's a legit rim protector. And then Oscar Clough, as you mentioned, he comes in now, and he's going to provide that kind of just grown man strength, rebounding, rim protection. And so I think the pessimistic view, which truthfully I've held a little bit on the defense so far is that, hey, like they didn't really go after like improved perimeter defense, and I don't think that's was a strength at all for them last season. But they had one of the worst defensive 2-point percentages last season, one of the worst rim protection or like rim rates in the country last season. And now you bring in two legitimate rim protectors that can kind of just shore up everything. When I kind of talked a few minutes ago about like, hey, why weren't people should have just been attacking the defense more that Zach Edey was gone. That gap was there where 2 years ago, yeah, it's fine, Fletcher, that you get blown by on the perimeter because Zach Edey's going to block everything. And maybe I don't expect Clough or Jacobson to maybe be that level defensively this season, but they're going to be a lot closer to that where, all right, Meyer, maybe he isn't quite there defensively. You do your best, but you actually have guys down there. With how good the offense is going to be, like I don't think the defense needs to be spectacular. I think it needs to be top 25 level-ish. And I don't think that's a guarantee. I do think there's a good chance they can get into that area just given how good Clough and Jacobson can be kind of covering the holes. There's other questions too, is like, can TKR really hold up as the 4 on the perimeter defensively and things like that? I could talk for 45 minutes, but I'll stop there.
Jacobson comes in and he played the first game last year. He had 13 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks in 25 minutes. It was against Texas A&M Corpus Christi, but still, this is a guy that can give you an immediate jolt, I think, on the defensive end. And I think he won't be I don't think he'll be a problem on the offensive end.
Nope.
If they use him in moderation, and especially with the fact that they're going to have Oscar Clough, who I think Clough is probably a little bit better offensively than defensively. I wasn't the biggest fan of him defensively, but I think he can be a real power threat. And he's got some real skill offensively. And look, Purdue, the reason why Purdue didn't go after defensive wings, is because they have a backcourt with 3 guys that played together a ton last year that were really darn good together. You don't break up what's working when you are Matt Painter, the literal king of not breaking up what's working, aside from Shaka Smart in this college basketball landscape. CJ Cox had a really, really strong freshman year. I think he had a couple really loud performances, but for the most part, he was just a steady freshman force there. Played 46% of the minutes and had a 123 offensive rating. Didn't turn the ball over. Made his threes. Made his free throws. Grabbed steals. Did everything that he needed to do. Maybe he takes a step up on the ball. Maybe he takes a step up in terms of his volume this year, but maybe he doesn't. And he's just still that really solid role-playing contributor. But Mayer is kind of the big swing piece for this team in my eyes. Joe, what do you like from Mayer, and what do you think he can? How do you think he can elevate the ceiling?
I mean, yeah, like he is a big time get. Briefly, the long term, well, he might be a 2-year guy and off to the NBA just based on mocks and things like that. But he is going to be the next probably guy after Braden leaves after next season. But looking for this year specifically, right? I talked briefly about the defense. Like he has upside to be that guy. If he is starting next to Lawyer and Smith, which I think is a very real possibility, he's probably going to be asked to be the lead defender. I think Like I think that's just kind of like we'll see what happens. Side note, I think there's also a chance that like Lawyer just kind of moves to the 6-man spots and you start CJ for defense. Myers just secondary ball handler. That could be interesting. But Myers, like, right, CJ had those spurts of, I mean, the Bama game comes to mind immediately where he had 11 points in 2 minutes and basically single-handedly won them that game. Did it a few times throughout the season where he could just get really hot quickly. Myers more of kind of this stable, true, okay, I'm going to be the secondary creator. I'm going to be the secondary facilitator. He has a good jumper, right? European type stuff of he's, skilled. He's going to have good footwork. He understands where to pass the ball, how to move the ball. He has good driving ability. Like he just kind of checks off all those boxes that fit for really what Purdue wants long-term, but also this year where he can slide in next to Braden and benefit off of playing against bent defenses where, right, there's the crazy thing is there's going to be, like, if their starting lineup is Smith, Lawyer, Meyer, TKR, and Clough, very realistic starting five. Meyer is your fourth or fifth best offensive player, which is like, that's a nuts offensive lineup if that's the case. And then he also can slide in and run point, where I don't think CJ or Jakari are true point guards. I think they're both more kind of combo off-ball guards. Meyer can now slide in. Braden can hopefully sit a few more minutes. And maybe he gets to that 34, 35 minutes a game instead of basically, I think, I'm going to pull it up now because he sat 1 minute in any of the tournament games. And it was because they lost by 20 to Michigan. He didn't play less than 30 minutes after December 5th. A lot of minutes. Hopefully Meyer can kind of help spell him just a little bit in that area too.
Jonathan, anything else on Omer Mayer?
Haven't dove into the film yet, but I've heard good things. I mean, if what Joe is saying is true, I think that really helps Purdue in the long run.
And why wouldn't it be? Joe is very smart.
Exactly. Yeah, if that ends up being true and he can really relieve Braden, I think keeping Braden fresh for later in the year is probably, it helps them in the long run. I'm gonna call my shot on this because I want to circle back to it. Like, I think Daniel Jacobson's going to completely change their defense. Like, his high school film was so good, and his instincts at his age are completely nuts. Like, defensively, he was way further along as a freshman than Edey was. Like, offensively, obviously different discussion point, but defensively, like 7'3" guys don't usually move like that.
Yep.
All right, we've got just a minute or so left before we want to get out of here. I think Purdue should be in the picture for a national championship all year. They have the point guard play, they have the front court, they have the experience in the back court. It's also wild, just like thinking about it, because we talked about this backcourt when they were freshmen being the scared backcourt, the backcourt that was going to lose Purdue the games. And now here they are as the experienced backcourt, the seniors that are going to lead Purdue potentially to a national championship type season. I don't have them as my number one team in the country, but I have them pretty darn close. Joe, I'm assuming this is going to be the favorite to win the Big Ten for you. How do you think they stack up nationally?
Yeah, and I'm going to throw in the caveat. I still have a lot of film to go through this summer before I finalize Big Ten rankings and all that. But yeah, right now they'll be number one in the Big Ten for sure for me. I see them being in that top 1A tier for nationally, right? Houston, Florida, Purdue. I'm sure there's another team or two I'm forgetting about off the top of my head. But I fully expect them to be in that mix. Like, we've talked about the defense, and I think that's that's going to be kind of the swing thing. Offensively, like, I legitimately think the floor for this offense is a top 5 offense in the country, if not a little higher. I think the ceiling is like one of the best offenses we've seen in the past decade. And I kind of spelled out the case earlier where, right, you're going to have lineups where, like, say if Meyer is legit, where Meyer or Clough or Jacobson is your 5th option offensively. Like, that's just not normal for that to be your 5th option, where it's like, right, you already have the best pick and roll 2-man game in the entire country, in my opinion, in Braden and TKR. Now you're adding, right, like, Purdue was 7th offensively last season, and I love Caleb first. They were playing 4-on-5 offensively, essentially, and they were still the number 7 offense in the entire country. Now you bring in, either Clough, who I agree with Sam, is a little bit more, I think, skilled offensively. You can dump it down into the post. He'll attack glass, good passing. Jacobson can be, in theory, more of the stretch 5. We have to still see that a bit. You add in, CJ is going to be a sophomore now, and Jakari is going to be a sophomore. Like, they were a number 7 offense in historically good year, with basically playing 4-on-5, and one of those 4 almost at all times was a freshman. There's just the offense is going to be so good that the defense just has to be good. It doesn't have to be awesome. It just has to be good, and I think they're going to be competing for a title. I will say the last thing I do just want to throw in here quick, Braden, Fletch, especially TKR also, they have been in the national spotlight for a while. And towards the end of last season, just, with some of the media stuff, and I honestly, I get it. You could just see the frustration and the tired of just like having to deal with it all the time. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a little slump somewhere later in the season where they're just kind of like, all right, get me to the tournament. Like that's like, right. Obviously they want to win the Big Ten title and all that, but like from the outside looking in, it's a lot closer to national championship or bust this season. And so I do expect at some point to see a little bit of a slide of them just being tired from being in the spotlight for literally 4 straight years. But obviously I do expect them to bounce back, and I think they're going to have a good tournament run. Final Fours in Indy. It's got to be this year, right? If not this year, then when?
Be there for that. That's going to be a heck of a
Big Ten has like
Purdue or no Purdue.
Big Ten has like 15 top 60 teams. Like if you don't bring it like on the road every night, like you're gonna lose. Like just happens. I mean, Purdue lost a couple years ago on the road to Ohio State, who was not very.
We lost at home to Ohio State this year.
Yeah, obviously,
they did.
Gonna be better.
They got Diebler.
Yeah, and like last thing for me, like I think we kind of mentioned it, but like, I mean, Painter and his staff are always really good developers. Like Harris and Cox could get a lot better, and like that could make the offense even better. Like, what's stopping CJ Cox from being like, higher usage this year and like more efficient than Lance Jones was? Like what's stopping him from being a 19% usage guy and 123 O rating?
All right, Jonathan.
Like he could.
Our next tip-off talk will be Monday when we talk Maryland with Ryan Hammer. Jonathan, you want to take us home?
Yeah, we're working on a couple other ones for early next week too, but stay tuned for those. If you came to hear about Tyler Self and where he's working, you came to the right place. If you came to hear about the Purdue Boilermakers, you came to the right place. And if you came to hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, you came to the right place. This has been Season 6, Episode 8 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. The first episode of Tip Off Talk is done, and we'll see you next time.